Welcome back to a brand new episode of Your Wealth and Beyond. I'm your host, Andrew Raffel. And today, listeners, we have a treat for you. We've got a special guest in the Dream Plan Retire studio, Genevieve Pitturo. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great, Andrew. Nice to see you.
Great to see you as well, and I'm excited to learn your story today. We're going to talk a lot with, and a lot of our listeners are business owners and entrepreneurs, and it's about finding purpose and how can we be a better leader. And your story, you've kind of over the last 30 plus years, you've had it all, and then you followed your dream. But you didn't even maybe know what that dream was. So today we're going to talk through on that about, leading with purpose and listening to your heart voice. So let's the listeners who don't know you, back in the 90s, you were executive in the TV space and kind of following your dreams. So tell us a little bit about that, and then what made you change course over these last 20 years.
Exactly. I wanted to be that independent woman with this amazing career in a great city. I think because when I was a kid, I watched Mary Tyler Moore on TV, and she was her show name was Mary Richards, and she was a TV executive, and she left home. Her parents wanted her to stay close and have a family, but I really resonated with her. She didn't want that. She wanted to be her own person. So I followed in the footsteps of Mary Richards, and I went and bought a place to live in New York City. And I said, TV is where I want to be. And I got a job and worked my way up. And I was pretty much living the life that I thought was exciting and, of course, had status and success. And it was different than what my parents planned. My dad came from Italy off the boat, married my mom. They had 4 of us. I'm the firstborn. So there was a lot of nurturing with me to have a family. They expected that, and they kept nudging me in that direction, but I still wanted to be that independent woman. And so it took a little persuasion on my part to let them understand that I still loved them, and I still wanted to be part of that family. I just had my own path. And I did that for 12 years in New York City and just kept climbing the ladder, single, enjoying what I could, made a really good living. And to me, it just felt like that was everything that I thought I wanted. But one day, without a clue, with no hints, I was alone in my apartment, and I heard a voice come from in me, and it came from here. It came from not my head, where my voices normally were coming from, but deep in my heart. And I heard a whisper ask me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And it really rocked my world. Maybe you can imagine if you'd never heard a voice and you ask you a question, that was pretty scary. And it really rocked me. But I also had presence of mind to know that it came from me, and there must have been a reason. And it was strange, but my instinct was, no, it's not enough for 30 more years. Where am I going to be in 30 years? And all these thoughts raced, I'll be alone, I'll have nice things. But I started to feel this emptiness in me that I'd never felt just thinking about 30 more years. And I guess all the running around and all the things that I thought were meaningful really didn't go very deep. And I didn't know what to do, but I remembered within minutes that I had seen this very disturbing news segment about police and social workers taking children out of a home where they were being hurt to a shelter. Now, things happen for a reason, right? But I didn't get it then. I just said, I remembered that. It came to the front of my mind, and I said, I wonder where they take those kids. And I thought I was going in going in a different direction of thought. And I said, I'm going to call those shelters. I called the shelter, and I asked them if I could come and read stories to the children that night. Now, I didn't tie any of this together, but they were very welcoming on the phone. They said, sure, we'd love that. That would be a great idea. And I said, oh, I'd love to come in. So I made a date. I brought some storybooks and I went in to read to the children. Now, I hadn't been thinking much about the 30 years, but it came back to roost, as they say. So I went in my business suit from a long day of work, and I sat on the floor because there weren't any chairs for adults in this room they sent me to. And I saw little faces come into the door area, and the staff brought them in, little children, maybe 4 to 7 or 8. This was an emergency shelter, so they were being processed, which is a horrible word for them. But they brought them in so that they could be together and in a calm scene so that the staff could do their work. And so they sat with me. And I instantly felt something in me fill with love. And looking back, of course, I know that that was an empty part of me. And it filled with love. And I sort of became a different version of me, a quiet, grounded version, nurturing, reading the stories. But at the same time, I was taking in their hurt, and I could see some of them were crying. Some of their clothes were soiled and didn't fit right. They were squirming. They were afraid. And I was anxious. I didn't know what was happening. I just wasn't prepared for the emotions I would feel. And I loved it. The bottom line was I loved being there. And I went as often as I could, 2, sometimes 3 times a week at night, which was such a different me than the workaholic me. And one night when I went and finished the stories, I followed to where they were going to sleep at night. And when I peered in to the room, there were cots and futons, 2, maybe 3 kids piling up together. They didn't change into anything. Some of them started to cry. And although the staff was really nice and sweet, that was bedtime. And for me, memories rushed to the forefront of my mind of my bedtime with my mom. We were 4 kids. I was the oldest. I got my mom for as long as I could, to sit with me. And I saw that this was nothing like the love we received. It was nothing like the fun and the giggles and the stories and, the blankets up to our chins and the kissing and the prayers. None of that. And what stood out to me was that they were still trying to fall asleep in those clothes that I couldn't imagine how they could be comfortable. And what came out of my mouth to the staff was, can I bring pajamas next time? And one woman said, that would be lovely. No one thinks of that. So I brought pajamas the next time. And I was just so excited to give these kids pajamas. I read to them and I started handing out the pajamas that I picked that would fit the children. One little girl was so afraid of me, she just kept backing away, shaking her head no. And she came up to my hips. Her clothes were tight and soiled. And I kept gently trying to press her to take them, and she just kept saying no and walking away from me. But I saw her watching me from the corner, and I gave the other kids the pajamas, who took them, and they all went into that room to go to sleep. But she lingered, so I went over with those pajamas again. I tried to give them to her. I knelt down. And I just talked to her gently and said, honey, these pajamas are for you. And they're pink, like your pink top. And I know they'll fit you. I can tell. And you can keep them. Don't you want your pajamas? And she just looked at me and she whispered, what are pajamas? And that rocked me as much as that voice that came in asking me if this was the next 30 years, was it enough? And of course, looking back, I could see how those 2 questions merged into a screaming, this is something you're supposed to be doing with your life. And I couldn't get far from her and all those children and what was missing in my eyes for them. That bedtime, that bonding, that safety, that protection, all those feelings that moms give us at that quiet, sacred bedtime. So time went on. I knew I was going to be losing my job because I didn't have any interest. I just wanted to give these children pajamas and give them a hug through that article of clothing. And thankfully, through a lot of fear and change and worry and being on my own to try to figure it all out, so many people came to help because they felt that hole in her just like I did when I told that story. And Pajama Program is now 24 years old and nationwide, 40 chapters around the U.S., and 8 million and counting new pajamas and books have been given to children like that little girl.
Wow.
And
So
that was
that is,
crazy.
when you, and that's a wonderful story. So let's unpack that because there's a lot in there. So you were living like the Carrie Bradshaw type world, right? You were living, you thought you had everything. The success was all there on paper, and you probably, had a good network of friends and colleagues, but there was something missing. Or did you not know there was something missing until that one evening when that heart voice came to you?
Right. I didn't think anything was missing. And I was going so fast. I was climbing so fast and workaholic. I had no clue, and I don't know how long that little voice had been trying to give me, give me that message.
And was it cold turkey, or how did you then, because I think whether entrepreneurs that are trying to build a business, or for you it was building a business tied to this passion of what became inspiration to you, was it just you quit cold turkey and said I'm done, and then you knew you had to start this, or was it a gradual process here to get purpose, passion, and pajamas set?
The feelings were immediate and strong, but my brain and my life couldn't turn on a dime. And I knew that. So there was a lot of turmoil in me because I knew that the passion and the attention I was giving the children was now far outweighing, and more every day, my passion for the work I thought I loved. And people could see that, but nobody knew why. I didn't tell anyone because the one time I tried to tell a friend, I met this little girl and I'm thinking about finding a way to quit my job and give pajamas to these children and how many shelters there are. She just shot me right down because it sounded crazy. I knew it sounded crazy. And she said, you've built 12 years, you have a mortgage. What are you doing? You're not saving their lives. Can't you do that on Saturday? And of course, at the time, my brain was, punishing me for even having that crazy idea, but I couldn't erase that mark she had made on my heart. It just wouldn't go away. So nobody knew for a long time about this struggle. And financially, it was a drain. There were a lot of issues because I didn't tell anyone and because I didn't do it the right way. I didn't plan it. I just jumped in, without a net.
Yeah. And sometimes that's ignorance is bliss sometimes, because otherwise we overthink it. And your story too of your childhood my daughter is now 18, and I do still remember, the routine that we had where we were, get her bathed and then in the pajamas and then read to her. And so it brought me back there, and then thinking in terms of that, that not everybody has that. It's like, yes, that makes sense, but like you just don't ever see that. And you think about how the story time and the connection is just so imperative in them growing up, and in the memories that if I asked her as now a freshman in college, she probably will remember a lot of that as well. So yeah, that's definitely, something that you just don't think about, because if you've had it, you just think everybody has it. So you jump head first and you build, now 24 years, but like, how did you bootstrap this? What was, is business owners out there, listeners that are trying to follow their goals and their vision and their dream, for you never, had a charity, a 501(c)(3), you never did this. So what did you do? How did you start building this?
Well, my mistake was not telling anyone or asking for help. And I think a lot of us make those mistakes. So I coach and I mentor and I speak. Share what you want to do. Be vulnerable, because you'd be surprised at how many people have been there or want to do that. And you'll be shocked at how many people want to help. And when I started timidly sharing and asking for help, the right people, you don't need everybody to get it, but the right people, when you're on purpose, are drawn to you. You will attract the right people. You just have to trust me because I learned the hard way. Once you start with the emotion that you have, with your story, with the reason this is going to make a change in someone, and the impact you're going to make is going to be as much for you as for everyone you want to help, the right people that feel that and feel for what you want to do are going to come to you. Whether you want to go from being a teacher to a doctor, whether you want to go from being a doctor to a piano player, people are going to find you because they resonate with what you're doing. And that changes the game 100%.
What were you afraid of in the beginning? Was it just that you were afraid of of not being successful in it, or what was that fear that caused you to limit yourself before you had that aha moment to like open up and then the right people came about? What was that?
Well, I knew that there was something these children needed that they didn't have that was going to be instrumental to them. And I knew, without knowing the word, I knew it was love. I knew the pajamas were a hug. I knew it was protection, security that they lacked. Of course, love. And I just, my heart was breaking knowing that they would get another year older with that hole in their heart, and they didn't deserve that. So there was a big emotional pull, as I think there are for a lot of people who want to make a move. And we all want to be successful, but we all want to serve. We all want to make a difference. We all want to impact people and serve the greater good. And I think that part is very emotional for anyone who wants to start something from scratch. So I had the emotional part. Financially, I couldn't afford it. I was not a saver. I had a mortgage. I was racking up
New
credit
York,
card bills.
Manhattan, it's hard, it's expensive,
It was really, I made a lot of mistakes because I let my heart lead, and I'm not regretting it, but it was a reality that I didn't plan for. So that was a mistake. But the right people, they helped me in every way. And I was alone until that woman I thought I could confide in, she shut me down. She was a friend. And when I met a nice guy that I thought, okay, this can go somewhere, but I better tell him because he thinks I'm a successful television executive. And I said the same thing I said to her, but his response was, I think you should go for it. That will happen. I tell people all the time, the right people will come and will make the difference. And that was a big aha moment, that there was somebody who saw that. And there are other people who will help me with other things.
And then how long until you finally quit this successful career that you had? Was it 6 months in? Was it a year? Were you doing things behind the scenes while you were trying to get this off the ground?
Yeah, for about 6 months or so, I was hiding the pajama thing. I kept bringing in my suitcase saying I was going overnight here and there. I was going to see friends, and it was full of pajamas. And I would leave early and make up excuses. And I'd take lunch, which I never took because I had to go shopping. So I did try to hide it, but there were things my boss saw that I knew I was going to get fired if I didn't quit. And so I took a couple of projects and I swore to my then boyfriend, became my husband, I'd work in McDonald's if I had to. But gloriously, somebody wrote a little article that appeared in a national magazine about this local girl bringing pajamas to a shelter. And that's when I was inundated with not only packages of pajamas and books, but letters and people asking for my 501c3 so that we could get a grant and I could survive. And I didn't even know what this 501c3 was. But that was the beginning of learning the financial workings of a nonprofit. And that allowed me to grow into a career that I started again from nothing, but it's workable. You can live make a career out of something you love, no matter if it's nonprofit or something else.
And how did that conversation go with your folks? Because they weren't maybe thinking you were living the life they wanted you to in this successful career. How did that look when you finally broke it to them that you're pivoting and now you're following your inner voice, your inner purpose of what you're put on this planet for?
Well, my father was a lot like my friend. He was very worried. He asked me a lot of questions, and I think I answered 99% of them. I don't know yet. I don't know yet, because he worked hard, came from Italy, and he got schooled here, and he got a job here, and he was, one who said you have to go to work and you have to work hard. So he didn't get it, but I just kept saying, just got to trust me. But my mom, on the other hand, she simply said, I don't know how you'll do it, but I know you'll find a way. And, that's how she lived her life. And she trusted me. And that was that was a real boost and a real support, just that she believed in me. And that helped. So there were two different opinions there.
And so this is where you teach a lot of you're, as a mentor, you're teaching how to balance profits and purpose. And so even though this wasn't a for-profit, you still needed to have enough coming in to at least cover yourself in the beginning. So what do you teach? What are some of those things as you teach this balancing of purpose and profits for business owners? What are some of those areas that you can help guide somebody who's listening today?
Sure. Well, if we look around now, it's very different. Leaders are leaders now. They used to be bosses, but now nobody's looking for a boss. We're all looking for a leader. And what comes with that, I think, is what the successful leaders know instinctively and are learning, that to be a voice that moves the world, to make an impact, to do good, I say there are 4 truths that you have to know and embrace. And it's clear when we look at the world today, who is making an impact and who we trust and who has integrity. And it's first to listen to your heart voice, to find what your purpose is, because that's the key. If we try to do something for money, if we try to do something because somebody else suggested, it's a family business that we might not necessarily feel the passion for, but if we get some opinions to go in a certain direction, it doesn't always fulfill us. But if someone were to say, find what you're meant to do, and once you find that purpose, whether you go out looking for it, which more and more people are now, or it finds you, like with me, that's the first step to knowing that you are a leader. You can hear and you can trust that your heart voice will not only take care of your needs, but that you're going to be able to spread that to make an incredible impact. So you first listen to that heart voice, because you know what it's saying and you know what your purpose is. You can find that clearly. And understand what I said before, the human connection is our greatest tool, our greatest asset. And we just don't rely on it. We just don't embrace it enough. But there are so many people ready to help if we just ask, and we ask, honestly, and then we offer, what can we do for you, and be so grateful and appreciate them. The third one is the integrity piece, to understand that you're leading with integrity that goes beyond yourself. So you're not doing what you're doing for the money or because you see a great path for yourself. You're doing it because you honestly want to use this natural talent and passion to make someone better, feel better, do better, inspire them. I think we all want to inspire people, and we want to be inspired. And we're inspired by people who we trust, care about us, and care about the bigger picture, want to make an impact on the greater good. So that integrity piece goes so deep and is so important. And the last one is what people used to say, and I heard it growing up, look at the power of one. Look at one person's idea. People said that to me when Pajama Program was growing, and it didn't feel right. And one day when someone said that, I just blurted out what's become my mantra. It's not the power of one that changes things. It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. And I say that and I write that because that's what you learn if you've decided that you're going to trust your heart voice, you want to make an impact, and you're not going to let anything stand in your way. You're going to embrace the idea that you have to share everything.
I love that. That's great. So The way you started growing this then, because you've turned it into a national brand, a brand itself with the purpose of the power of giving and the connecting. How did you then? Article comes out, so that helps catapult you a little bit. And what were some of the next steps that you did to, because as we look at this, you're building a brand, you're connecting, you're kind of boots on the ground. It's probably all you at this point, but what are some of those things that you did in the early 2000s to take it to the next level?
One of the differences I noticed in myself was when I was a boss and I had bosses, the bosses told us what to do and we did it. Pretty much that was the meeting. The boss spoke, told you what was happening, gave you your responsibilities, and you accepted them and you went off and you did your job. But when I was growing something that I had no idea how to do it and I was trusting my heart, I had volunteers call and say, "Can I help?" And I literally said to them, "Yes, but I don't know how. Do you know how you can help?" And they'll tell you to this day how funny those conversations were, because they weren't sure, but they loved the freedom. I just trusted that they were coming from their heart because they felt what I felt, and it worked. And I've learned, listen to everyone. Right? Aren't we all talking about that? Give everybody a voice at the table. It's not one person's meeting. It's everybody's meeting. And you have to trust. And I would trust many ideas. And I would laugh at myself saying I would never have done this 4 years ago. And I've never had a boss who'd ever say to me, "Well, you figured out, I'm sure you'll come up with a good idea." And that's key. Trust other people. Listen. And their ideas were incredible. And I could never have had any of those ideas. And it was great. And I'll tell you one. Do you have time for me to tell you one?
I've got time. We're here.
Okay.
Yours,
So
yours.
one of the ones is, it's always funny to me, but the recession came and we had a small board at that time, board of directors. And pretty much when you're running anything, people depend on you for all the ideas, right? And I was still trying to come up with all the ideas, but the recession was a tough one because nonprofits were falling away, left, right. Money was tight. Everybody was saying, "Woe is me." And I was very worried because I could not let these children down. I made a vow to myself. So I went to the board meeting just dejected. And I just said, we need money and I don't know what to do. And it was the first time I'd ever said that out loud, because that's a hard thing for us leaders to say, but thankfully we're doing it more and more, saying, "I don't know what to do. I need help." It was quiet at the board meeting because I think they were surprised too. And one of the board members said, "Let's go bowling." Now, Andrew, I remember saying, "Okay, don't react because you're going to insult her, but does anybody even bowl in New York City?" I was like, "What is she talking about?" I came in with my heart on my sleeve saying we need money, and she's saying we should go bowling. Right? All this was my inner dialogue. And I didn't have any other ideas. And so she said, "I think let's go bowling. Let's have a bowling fundraiser." I said, "Okay." So I remember saying to myself, I had no other idea. All right, let's just do it. And we planned a little bowling fundraiser. So we did it in New York, and a few of the chapter presidents around the country thought that was fun because I knew they bowled in Ohio. I knew they bowled, in other places. So that was okay, I figured, but I still was saying not in New York. So we bowled in New York. And Andrew, it had nothing to do with the end of the night about how much we raised. It had to do with the rallying, the support, the camaraderie, the laughter, the love. That was missing at that time of the recession. We all felt it. And this was such a stark difference where people came together to feel good and for a good cause. So not only did we raise some money, but people talked about it and people came from out of the woodwork, friends of friends, to donate. And that morale changed the trajectory from going one way in the recession and going another way. And I thank God for that bowling idea every day.
Yeah, that's powerful there. And I think the leaders now are seeing that with their own companies of trying to do things that are based off of not profit, but purpose and,
Hmm.
aligning all of the key stakeholders and whether that's your employees, your clients, your partners, your trusted advisors, doesn't matter what industry you're in, the power of getting out of the office and just being real with each other and letting your hair down and just focusing on learning. In this case, it can go a lot of different ways, but learning more about each other and what makes each other tick. And sometimes you can't do that in the office, and whether that be you bowling, which is an awesome idea, or you thinking about a hike or an offsite, things of that nature. So listeners, that's so important, is that yes, it is any business. It's about building the right systems and having the right marketing and being profitable. But if there's no purpose behind it, then you're not going to have the people that you need on a day-to-day basis that are going to help you get to the next level. Because
Yeah.
and then you also mentioned vulnerability. You were vulnerable in that board meeting, which allowed all of this to take shape. And that's where a lot of bosses or leaders are afraid of that, of being vulnerable. So be
Right. Well,
vulnerable.
you cannot be a voice that moves the world if you are not trusted, respected, vulnerable, inclusive. If people can't talk to you, if you can't talk to them, then nobody's going to hear your voice.
And speaking of that, so with your background in the TV industry, as you started getting the momentum and building the brand and the mission and all the kids that you were helping, all of a sudden you're on the Today Show and you're like, walk us through, how did you get on Oprah? Like, how does that even work? Was that the connections that you had in your previous career, or how does somebody get to that point where now the mission is there, the purpose is there, but now we got to get it out to the masses? What did you do to self-promote?
No, Andrew, none of those came from anybody I knew in my first life. You know where it came from? Strangers. Again, the human connection. When the Oprah show called, I was beyond excited, and I was just so tempered because I knew if I said the wrong thing or I was too anxious, it could go away. And I knew we needed that, and that would have changed the game. And when I got up the courage in like the fourth phone call, I said, "How did you hear about us?" She said, "People have been writing in." Now, if there's no other example of the power of the human connection and one another, I don't know what is. Strangers. They will find you. The ones who resonate will find you.
So they were writing into Oprah saying, you got to learn about, you got to get them on, you got to promote them. And this is
Yeah, we're
prior
about
to,
to.
and this is prior to, social media. This is, where things can go viral. So that means you guys were doing some really good work, and you had people that were just as passionate about it as you were. That's amazing. So we get on Oprah, and does that just change things tremendously?
Yes, it was like a jackpot at the casino. Ring, 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 ring. People emailing, people donating, people calling. Yeah, and it's a big surprise. I have the show on my website. People can see it, or you can find it. But it's an incredible. It was an incredible show, and there was a surprise to me and to some others, and some people were in on it, as you'll see. And they had such an incredible reaction that they aired it 3 times and then had me back to Where Are They Now on OWN. It's just, and a lot of people supported, but the key is the people who resonate with what you're doing will find you, and that's all you need. And so it's whatever you want to do, whatever your purpose is, whatever your heart's telling you you are here to do, you have company. The right people will find you.
And to date, how many kids has Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas? How many have you guys helped?
Pajama Program, 8 million pajamas and books so far in 24 years. Now, 20 years I was executive director. And then I was asked to speak and write a lot about finding purpose and changing path midstream and all of that. So I passed the baton of the executive directorship to Jamie, who was our board president at one time. And so she runs it. And I am now speaking and writing and consulting to help people be that voice and to just share some of the lessons I learned. There were a lot of them.
8 million. Wow.
Hmm.
That's tremendous. Was that hard to pass the baton? You know, the baby that you built and or that was born and that you helped watch grow, or was this just inevitable for you to have this third chapter?
I wouldn't have known I would have done that when I started, but I never would have known we would have grown. So, you never know. But I really wanted to do my purpose chapter 2, which was help other people. I can't tell you, Andrew, how many times somebody would come in my office, close the door, and sort of guiltily tell me that they really didn't want to be, what they were doing, the accountant or the chiropractor. They really wanted to play the violin. And I think I felt that my story, because I could tell them all the things I did wrong, was appreciated because they wanted to know that they could do it even if they didn't know how or have all the answers. And I also let them know, like I know today, I'll be your biggest cheerleader. I talk to people every day and just try to help them off the ledge or try to help them connect with somebody, because I thought that that was my next responsibility, to take this purpose to help others in addition to helping all the children. So sometimes it's hard, but I use the story of Pajama Program to connect with people and let them know, like I did with you, the times that were hard and the messes, that I was going toward until somebody, picked me up off the floor. And I think it's important to be that cheerleader for people and let them know it's not easy. It's wonderful. It's the best thing you'll ever do, but it's not always easy.
And I think, with the pandemic and COVID, 3, 4 years ago, it did bring that to light for a lot of people. What is my purpose? What makes me happy? Everything looks great on paper, but if I'm waking up and I'm kind of hollow inside, maybe I take a step back and I breathe and I see, 50 years old now, what's my purpose? And, working with, on our side, a lot of business owners, or I'm an entrepreneurs organization. So we, deal with a lot of, in these groups that I'm part of, successful business owners, but maybe they just don't have that passion anymore, and it's like, what's next? And it's hard. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to leave something. So your teachings, then you go out there into, you travel now and you do different speeches and things of that nature. What type of groups are you speaking to get this message out that has shaped your life?
Well, there are different groups. So sometimes there's a group that I'll call chapter 2. They've discovered for whatever reason that they spent all this time doing something, and whether they're retired or they're 40, they're brave enough to say, okay, I'm going to just expose myself to my family and friends and tell them I really want to play the drums or whatever it is. So those are chapter 2 groups. And then I speak to leaders about taking their leadership to voice level, to show them how impact and human connection are the keys to being a voice that people will listen to and respect, and that can be amplified. And I think a lot of the talks I give are the magic of purpose plus the human connection. What I've stressed here, that when you are on purpose, you will find so many people almost lining up to help you, and that you can't let the few that say no. Listen, I got a million no's. And I taught myself to say, well, as long as they're giving somewhere, whether it's at their job or to an animal shelter or to a senior, whatever they're doing, then I think that's wonderful. They don't have to all support what I'm doing. And I learned that that's the way to move forward. You can't have everything and everybody, but you just have to trust that there's more than enough that will see the world the way you do.
And do you remember the time when you built this and it became, passion, but also successful. Remember the time your dad came to you? Did he say how proud he is of you, of what you ended up building after he was, in a sense, afraid of you taking this step? Was that a conversation that you remember?
I do, but he didn't remember ever having any doubt. So
Of
I had
course,
to
of
remind
course.
him. I said, "You could have pushed me over the edge, Dad." I said, "You were so worried for me. You told me reminded me about my mortgage. No, I always knew you can do it." Well, he kept it a secret then.
And what do we want Pajama Program the next 10 years, 5 years, 10 years? What do we want to do?
Well, Jamie is running it so well, and she's incorporated how important sleep is for these children because remember they're at risk. They're living with food instability and homes that they're in need of. And so sleep for us, we're all talking about how we don't get enough sleep. Imagine for these children who are traumatized, sometimes really badly, and have seen really frightening things, how they're sleeping or not sleeping. So she's incorporated that. And I think that's very important because these kids need to feel rested. They need to wake up feeling strong because there's a bad road they can continue down if they don't have what it takes to wake up and feel healthy, feel good, feel energized, at least have something and someone to trust. And so I'm proud that I chose her and recommended her to the board and that she's growing it to incorporate so much of the way life's changed for us all. And I think that that's really great. And I just want to keep one at a time reaching someone to give them that little boost that they can take and say, yes, okay, I can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's tremendous. It's, one of those things, a lot of people wake up at the end of their lives and they're like, I wish I would have
Mm-hmm.
followed this dream, this
Rocking chair test.
and so many don't. So the message that you're providing out there, not only did you do it, and left and built something, but now being able to break it down for people to know that it's not going to be easy, but if we follow our dream and our passion and our purpose, the right people will come along, and you got to make it work, and it does.
Mm-hmm. There are a
Incredible.
lot of people out there who will tell you, trust yourself.
Yeah. We just we try to do charity events with the employees here at Baintree and bring clients involved. Last week we did Foster Alliance, which is local here in Phoenix, but where we help we go in and build a birthday box for these children that range anywhere from 3 up to 15, 16, and you're able to then see what their goal, what their wish list is. But the one thing that we've done it a couple times, but the one thing that it wasn't in there was pajamas. And
Mm.
think through on that, like that should be a given, because we take it for granted that our kids all had pajamas, and that there is just that context of the reading and being comfortable and so much of that. So, but just knowing that, we're doing that type of work, it's, and having clients be part of that, that's the type of mission that, we try to build here to build within, that we're, striving for something more important than just the day to day. And so,
That's beautiful.
and we
That's
try to,
beautiful, Andrew.
and so any last words for the listeners out there? I know we unpacked a lot, follow the human voice, the connection, the purpose, aligning with the right people, not being afraid, being vulnerable, but any last bits of advice that you have for the listeners?
I always say, trust your heart and along with that, your body will tell you how it feels. I do lots of exercises and lots of games with people when I speak in the audiences and one-on-one coaching. And if you want to do something, say you're doing it and feel your body, and then say you're doing something else and feel your body. Your body is your alert. It will tell you if it doesn't feel good that it's wrong, and it will tell you if what you're saying feels really good.
Yeah, it doesn't lie. It doesn't lie.
Doesn't the bodies don't lie.
Unbelievable. So Genevieve, well, thank you for sharing your story. Below the show notes or on the YouTube video, there's going to be ways on how people can connect with you, with your, LinkedIn, Instagram, ways to donate to Pajama Program, and continue following the success that you guys have had. So listeners, please take some time and review, and whether it's helping Pajama Program or something else, make sure that you're following what's in your heart and giving back, because we can't take all the success that we have if we're a successful business. We got to be able to give it back to the community.
Agreed.
Genevieve, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on Your Wealth and Beyond. This has been inspirational. I'm excited. I'm ready to finish this day strong because of you. So keep doing what you're doing, and continued success for the program that you built. And let's help as many kids as we can. And also let's help as many leaders as we can be better leaders. And those that aren't leaders yet, give them the stepping stones so that they can become the most powerful leaders to help impact more and more people. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. And we will be back later this month with a brand new episode of Your Wealth and Beyond. Again, make sure if you enjoyed today's podcast that you forward it on to a friend, a family member, a colleague, and happy planning, everybody. We'll talk to you all real soon. Thanks so much.